Parallels. This podcast is at the basic level. It requires no knowledge of Accordance Bible software, nor Hebrew or Greek. Every primary collection of Accordance comes with parallels. No, I'm not talking about just adding a parallel pane to a text window, but the multiple parallel databases included with your purchase. What are parallels? Accordance has a special text window that compares passages in the Bible that are parallel in content. Examples of parallel passages include Kings and Chronicles in the Old Testament, the Synoptic Gospels in the New Testament, and New Testament quotations of Old Testament passages. In today's podcast, we'll look at this underused resource and explain some of the ways these modules can enrich our study of the Bible. There are currently 8 parallel databases available for Accordance. You'll find them listed under the parallel icon shown here. Starting from right to left in good Hebrew fashion, we have the first 2 Old Testament parallels, Old Testament and Tanakh. These are virtually identical, save that the latter has been tweaked for our Jewish users and is found only in Accordance's Jewish collection. In the New Testament, we have 5 parallels, Gospels, Synoptics, a harmony of the Gospels, Q, or the sayings of Jesus, and epistles. Finally, we also offer one of the various Old Testament passages cited in the New Testament. More information about any of these parallels can be found by selecting it and then reading about this text. What practical uses are there for parallels? First, we can locate parallel passages. This is always good if we're looking for more information on a particular biblical event. It's also an essential first step if we then want to compare the way different books or authors cover the same events. The reverse is also true. Parallels can help us identify unique biblical passages, for instance, all the material unique to John's Gospel. And finally, parallels can help us find quotations from one part of the Bible found in another, like Old Testament quotations in the New Testament. Like most Accordance modules, parallels can be accessed in a variety of ways. We can open them directly from the library, the resource palette, or the file menu, or select a passage and amplify a verse to any parallel by using the contextual menu or clicking on the parallels icon on the resource palette. Note that amplifying will only work if the passage is found in a parallel, but sometimes knowing that it isn't is every bit as useful as knowing that it is. Here's a typical parallels window. You'll notice it borrows elements from both the search window and the tools window, with the search entry section on the top and the search results section on the bottom. Now let's zoom in and take a closer look at the search entry section. Here's the left half of the parallel search entry section. It's laid out very logically, with the name of the parallel database on the left. Just click and drag to select the parallel you want from the pop-up menu. Just to the right of it is a search field, with its own pop-up menu. The display text is next, followed by the familiar recycle button. Now in the second row we have the options, whether or not we want to tie the scrolling of our panes together, whether we want an additional text displayed, and the name of that additional text, as well as the history of our searches. Below that, the search entry box is located in its normal position, as is the search icon. The right half of the parallel search entry section is unique to the parallel window. It displays the search results pericopes. A pericope is a passage that has been identified as a single literary unit. Each one has a title number and a title, both of which are also searchable. Now let's zoom back out. Here's that window again. It only contains 2 features we haven't yet mentioned: the references at the top of each pane, and the angle quotes that appear when there is another parallel that is not currently displayed. Just click on it to add another pane and display that other parallel. We haven't said much about the various add text options. Unchecked, the Old Testament and New Testament parallel window looks like this. However, users can opt to have another translation displayed simultaneously, even in another language, like so. Those with knowledge of Greek and Hebrew can choose to display original languages in each testament. Or even the Hebrew Bible and the Septuagint simultaneously, as some New Testament passages quote the former, while others, like this passage in Hebrews, quote the latter. We can search parallels by title number, title or verse references, depending on which field we select. The title number search is available, but rarely used. More common searches will be by title, which is similar to a word search, and by reference, which would be similar to a verse search. Notice there's no content field, so we cannot search within texts in a parallel window. We can also use a number of search commands and search symbols. Those not available in the parallel window are grayed out. I think that's enough of an overview. Now let's explore the parallel modules in accordance. Let's divide this demonstration into the 4 common tasks that use parallels the most. First, locate parallel passages. Parallels are great for locating parallel passages. Let's say we're studying Solomon building the temple in 1 Kings 6. We want to see whether there are any parallel passages in the Old Testament. We click anywhere in the verse and amplify to Old Testament parallels. Accordance instantly locates and displays the parallel in 2 Chronicles 3. Now, here's a perfect example of the second common task, comparing parallel passages. We can see that Kings is very interested that we get the date correct, while Chronicles is more concerned with the placement of the temple, and it's linked to David. Let's add an additional text, the Hebrew Bible. Since I'm using the ESVS, tagged with Strong's numbers, and BHW4, which is grammatically tagged, I can cursor over any word in either parallel and see information on the original Hebrew. I can also use Command Cursor, triple click, and amplify from the text to the resource palette. So I can see what my Erdman's Dictionary has to say about Egypt. And I can check out our new Concise Dictionary of Classical Hebrew and see what it has to say about the Hebrew bet, or house. Notice, however, that Compare Text is not available, nor is key number highlighting. Let's return to our NRSV. Number 3, unique passages. Sometimes knowing that a passage is unique is every bit as important as finding its parallel. For instance, we can use the Gospels parallel to locate all the unique material found in Mark. Simply type Mark, not, and then in parentheses Matthew, comma, Luke through John, end parentheses. Here we've located the 5 pericopes that are exclusive to Mark. Now let's compare that to the unique material in John, which some scholars estimate to be as high as 80%. We'll just type John, and then not command, and Matthew through Luke. We can see at once that there are many, many more passages. Let's change to the harmony parallel. Notice that Accordance provides several different databases, each one based on a different scholar's work. And while we're here, let's go ahead and do a word search in pericope titles. Let's look for Jesus and disciples. I can navigate through the result by either using my arrow keys or by clicking. Number 4, find quotations. Let's use the Old Testament and New Testament parallel to locate some New Testament quotations from the Hebrew Bible. We can open it directly from the library window. First, we'll use it to search for every quotation from Isaiah in the New Testament. I can see from the appearance of these angle quotes that there's at least one more parallel. Let's click on it and see what it is. Nothing could be simpler. We can also search a New Testament book, like Matthew, and see every place it cites the Old Testament. Notice that we can also choose which parallel appears in each pane. Finally, I can combine these last 2 searches and search for every place that Matthew quotes Isaiah. I trust this episode has challenged you to incorporate Accordance's parallels into your study of the Bible. It's part of every Accordance primary package, and part of what makes Accordance shine as Bible software. This has been Dr. J for Accordance Bible Software. Thank you for watching this episode of Lighting the Lamp.